Our upcoming speaker is currently working as a strategy execution manager, network and technology at Ericsson Canada and is also responsible for co-creating product-oriented practice at Capital Carbon Consulting to support investors, startups and enterprises. She is also the co-founder of DevOps Community of Practice Canada, an open community having more than 500 leadership contributors. She strongly believes in creating experiential learning platforms to unleash the value of her product. And hear this out. She was recognized in the list of top 20 influencers of 2020 Ericsson on the Move. And now she's all set to influence us with her power packed take on trust, reliability, and governance, the three pillars of DevSecOps. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a hearty warm welcome to Ms. Garima Bajpai. Garima, over to you.
I'm Garima Bajpai. Before I start my talk, I want to introduce myself. I am the co-founder for the DevOps Community of Practice in Canada. I am the co-organizer for the DevOps Summit, which happens in Canada, November 2nd and 3rd. I'm also the ambassador with DevOps Institute, which is one of the leading educational institutes around DevOps and DevSecOps. I am ambassador with Continuous Delivery Foundation. So before I begin my talk, I want to reflect on today's call to action, which is basically setting the pace for the future of DevSecOps. Through this collaboration, through this discussion forum, through this conference, we all will come together and we will discuss the possibilities of how and what would craft the future of DevSecOps. So it's an excellent platform. I would like to start this talk with some reflections from the past. And I would like to go through what history reminds us about DevOps and DevSecOps movement. So it's a grassroots journey, and it was started from the practitioners by the practitioners. It was not necessarily a methodology, a framework, a specification, or a job title, or a tool, right? It was an experience-based movement started by a set of people, and it was decentralized and open to all. So having looked at where it began, where this journey of DevOps and DevSecOps began, I want to take this dialogue forward, and I want to build what kind of future roadmap we have for DevSecOps. So before actually going into the how of DevSecOps practices and what kind of future-oriented practices we would build and how would we build, I would start with designing the why. And in order to design the why, my consideration would be what if we consider DevSecOps as a product? What will be the product values for this product? So essentially, what my talk will be reflecting is three product values of DevSecOps, which is necessary trust, reliability, and governance. So why do I emphasize on trust? Because building trust is essential if we want to go digital as a society. Enabling reliable global flows of information, technology, and products is essential as well. And last but not least is governance towards strong human-machine collaboration. We are entering into an era where we will have more and more machines collaborating with human. So we need to have proper guidelines, policies, and governance around how we interact and how we communicate together to make a better team. So what I would start assessing is what kind of user stories and feedback we need in order to ensure that we better assess and predict security breaches. How do we bring traceability into software? How do we enhance our data protection? How do we enhance the protection towards our assets? And how do we reduce the impact of security breaches? How do we actually align with the data privacy and regulations? So basically, what we need to do is we need to take a deeper look into how we build our user stories, how we incorporate feedback into the system. And essentially have been part of DevOps and DevSecOps movement since 5 to 6 years. I work with different communities, a community of practices. And what I've come across is these large organizations are already redesigning and retransforming how people, how teams, how leaders work together to ensure speed, agility, and innovation in the system. But I get across this question often that do you feel that we are moving too fast? Do you want to bring cadence with speed, agility, innovation, and with trust, governance, and reliability at the forefront? So, this talk will actually, what we will do is we will reflect DevSecOps as a product. And we will talk about three basic product values which this product will bring forward in order to kind of enhance our view about future possibilities of incremental features which this DevSecOps product would have. So I will start with trust. And trustworthiness has several attributes. A software which is safe, which is secure, which is error free, can be considered trustworthy, right? So basically, we do not have a systematic framework to decide the trustworthiness of the software. And if you think about what we are getting into with 2030 is we will have a new era of software practices. That new era of software practices will actually enhance critical decision making through software without oversight of human. So it is extremely important that we have governance policies, we have a clear view on what trust means. We also are basically moving towards an era where technology shift is taking us to possibilities of shortening our reaction time. We have we will be introduced to like a complex mesh of 19 billion devices by 2030. So it is extremely important to get some reflections on how trustworthiness will be built into software. And if, let's say, from a very naive perspective, I take an example that how, if I use a digital software, if I use a software feature, when it becomes trustworthy to me, if I have used it and it suffices my requirement, it's trustworthy. Or if my network or the people who are trusted to me have used it and they recommend it, then that software becomes trustworthy to me. Also, there is a possibility that the brand behind that software brings trust into that digital solution. There might be also certain other factors, like if we investigate the responsibility and accountability towards open source, and we find that that responsibility accountability is well defined, then we feel that the software and the digital solution is trustworthy. We also look at some of the other possibilities, like how the software was developed, who delivered the software, what kind of reliable infrastructure was used, what kind of plugins were used, right? So all these factors are actually factors towards trustworthiness. And last but not the least, the most important one is fitness of purpose. If the software is fit for purpose, that brings trustworthiness. And in this age where new consumers are on rise, where they demand personalized software, customized, tailor-made software, it is also important to address this fitness of purpose as one of the considerations to build trust. So if you look at trust as one of the product value of DevSecOps, these are all the attributes of building trust, right? I will move forward into this discussion because we'll come back on how we can integrate the DevSecOps as a product group. But first, I need to also define reliability. So reliability, what reliability means in general is something which is dependable, something which is consistent, something which is resilient towards undesired failures, right? So why reliability becomes important as a product value for DevSecOps is these features and products no longer are more than just faster version of everything. So people are looking at reliability. So it is extremely important for us to also define safety margins. So defining safety margin would be an attribute to reliability. Also, we need to ensure that we make use of next generation technology and we make use of new data sources. So if we are doing that in the products, so it is also extremely important to understand that what makes a software reliable. If you're using the data, new data sources which are available, for example social media, then how are you using that data and how reliable you are as a product company to ensure that privacy rights are protected, data driven policies are followed. So these are key factors and key contributors for building up the reliability as a product value for DevSecOps. Now, I would actually move forward in this discussion and reflect on the third value, which is basically governance. And in my view, in 5 years down the line, the highest performers will be open source projects. So most of the valuable products and features will be developed in collaboration, or there will be contribution from the open source community. So open source projects are becoming extremely important, and so is the governance, because to bring security, data protection, to bring privacy framework in an integrated way towards the products and features, we need to ensure that we have proper governance of open source projects. We also will have a possibility to collaborate with 19 million developers, which would essentially mean that we will have to work on a governance framework which makes these 19 million developers trustworthy. And we, whatever products and features we are bringing, we make it reliable, we make it governance which is having trust in all these 19 million developers. I'll also like to reflect on the fact that a human machine interaction will become one of the primary governance issues or considerations, because we will have more machines in the system than humans. So how do we deal with human to machine interaction would be one of the primary things when we actually integrate our products in the ecosystem. And lastly, I would also reflect that new use of data sources like social media, big data, will also require governance, will also require an oversight of how these data sources are being used, what kind of personalization we can do, how do we actually integrate AI capabilities into the usage of data sources to build analytics on top of it and build user stories which are efficient for decision making. So all this will comprise of attributes of governance, and this will be one of the product value for DevSecOps. So having looked at these three product values of DevSecOps, I would like to move forward in this journey, and I will actually like to reflect that when we talk about products in today's context, today's connected world brings new opportunities for creating value. Due to shortening lifespan of products and due to digital diversity and changing consumer behavior, this new value system is in making. And in this new value ecosystem, I find trust, reliability, and governance will make products stand out. But what is the challenge we have today? The challenge we have today is we do not actually consider DevSecOps as in an integrated way. We are looking at DevSecOps in a micro view. So we are looking at threat modeling practices, we are looking at chaos engineering, we are looking at security as code, we are also looking at vulnerability scanning, and so on and so forth. But we do not have an integrated view about the value which provides our products towards our products and features. And that is why you see that, decomposing the idea that, DevSecOps, if it is one of the product groups you have, if you want to decompose that idea and look for investment uh, when you are building up your product, and the unified value from planning, development, deployment, and operations for DevSecOps is missing today. So, what by defining DevSecOps as a product, what will happen is that we will actually have a unified value system, and we will able to actually gauge what is the shortest path to create that value through DevSecOps, which will be integrated, which will put focus on integrating your products in a secure way, and not the other way around. Now, I will elaborate this in little more detail so that we all understand what I'm advocating for. So basically, the basic idea is that the product feature is getting protected by the use of security functionality, rather than actually going the other way and making a checklist of security items and looking at it in a fragmented way. We also will have to ensure traceability, audit, vulnerability management for open source components becomes a value component in your product journey, which means that you bring accountability and responsibility as one of the value components in the product. You also have to ensure that you have the right product feedback loops, which constantly reduce liability, and it becomes an economic question for a product to understand the liabilities and to actually have dynamic feedback loops which can give you insight into kind of liability that product carries and how to reduce it. We also will have to enable personalized security and policy based on e-privacy framework. And this will only happen when you think about DevSecOps from the inception stages of a product and a feature. Leveraging security practices to get useful data that brings us to closer to the demands of the customer or the needs of the government will be one of the key considerations if you want her to bring an integrated view for DevSecOps. And every feature lifecycle has to be integrated with the user privacy choices. So these are some of the considerations for DevOps. If you think about it in an integrated ecosystem and you try to build this idea around DevSecOps being a product. So now coming back to today's call to action, which is setting the direction for future DevSecOps. So the future of DevSecOps would be to treat DevSecOps and security as a portfolio, a product group, have products that have incremental features. That means the product group has to have incremental features, and we have to invest in traceability, audit, vulnerability management, and a number of other things, which I'll talk in the later slides. And key and most important thing is that start looking at the value ecosystem and embed value tracking from the beginning. Try to ensure that from the product inception stages to operations, you have a unified value mechanism to track what kind of additional product features which you're integrating through DevSecOps are bringing gains to the products. So that's how I see the future of DevSecOps. Now, One of the big question is when we think about DevSecOps as a product, what are the incremental features and how we actually define the incremental features? So we need to understand that the ecosystem is changing. We will not have the same policies. We'll not have the same privacy frameworks. We'll have to look and consider global flow of information, technology, and products. So in order to ensure that we have incremental features which have synergies with the technology advancements we are having, we have three main choices how we can actually set the pace for the incremental features for DevSecOps if we consider this as a product. So either we have industry-led governance, which is basically a neutral assessment body where you can actually come do some audits, do some kind of vulnerability management assessments, and this will ensure that we have some kind of insights into future incremental features based on AI, based on more emerging technologies, which will be needed to integrate it. Now, the second way of addressing this problem and looking into the future would be building up consortium of partners and engaging with stakeholders to define what trust, reliability, and governance would mean. And it can be done through incubators or virtual labs where we are actually putting constant efforts towards POCs to define and redefine our privacy framework, our data usage policies, and our security framework. And this has to kind of have some kind of standardization so that we have some view on how our products are doing on the security space, how our products are assessed when it comes to trustworthiness, reliability. The third way of actually driving this future needs would be to look at it from a top-down perspective and say if policies and standardizations are driven by government bodies. And I foresee that this can happen in a more controlled sector like healthcare or defense, where a top-down approach would be a mandatory step forward. So having looked at what are the possibilities how we can actually develop these futuristic incremental features for DevSecOps, I would also like to reflect what kind of future possibilities we have, and there can be numerous, but I have outlined 5 of them. So in order to for us to prepare for this asymmetrical technology advancement which we are heading towards, we would need to reflect on policy labs, and I have a slide on that. So I'll talk about it a little later. But also decentralization of security and privacy framework in order to understand if we have local needs, we have local choices. We also have to think about if the digital giants can provide a data backbone for all our products and services to ensure that we are able to leverage the same kind of data sources and the possibilities as other products, right? So it becomes more democratic. Open governance and socially protective policies would be needed in order to ensure we make better decisions for our products and features, which will be more tailor-made for the society, which will be for the new consumer base, which are shifting towards technology choices and digital returns. I will come to the policy labs, and this is a very important discussion and dialogue in terms of DevSecOps. So if we have some kind of environment, a safe environment for the policymakers to experiment with new policies, that would be something which can add value towards how we define the DevSecOps future. So the use of new data sources, as I mentioned, and technology advancement for policy development. If we can experiment, create POCs, we can bring more and more products and features to this lab to ensure that we have a consensus that how our policies should look like, how our data privacy framework should look like, what kind of security challenges we have, what is acceptable for us as a society. And we also have a possibility of setting up joint experiments involving different stakeholders. We can bring industry experts from healthcare, from banking, and we can enhance the existing regulations, the design of new future-oriented software and privacy framework. And lastly, I think these policy labs will also help us implement and expand our view on what kind of privacy needs we have, what kind of data-driven policy choices we have, and this can become the basis of producing incremental features for DevSecOps. I would like to end my talk with one of the slides which is very close to my heart, and I think it's one of the mandatory slides. I go to every conference and I call upon all the women in my network to be part of this DevSecOps movement. This is a choice you're making today. We have a choice to share the purpose and build policies for future. Everybody can create and sponsor activities. So all the women in my network, I call upon to them to be participative, contribute towards this journey. Also communicate to reflect association with changing reality, that digital future matters to you, so as your privacy rights and data usage rights, right? And we have this shared responsibility to build up a sustainable future, and we are party to it. So I would again say that women have to be part of this movement, and I call upon all the women to join forces with us and define the future of DevSecOps. So this is all I had for today. Thank you very much for this opportunity. You can connect me on LinkedIn or Twitter if you want to know more, or if you want to collaborate in any of the initiatives I have. So thank you very much.